So it's Monday, June 3rd, 2024, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. A Minnesota DA says she can't prove a state trooper used unnecessary force when he killed a black motorist, so she dropped the murder charges. We'll talk with the attorney representing Ricky Cobb's family. Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee announces she is battling pancreatic cancer. We'll give you those details. Also, the co-chairs of Harvard's Legacy of Slavery Memorial Project Committee have resigned, alleging that the university has been interfering with their work. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit stopping the Fearless Fund from handing out grants to black female entrepreneurs. Plus, we'll explain why Trump's election interference trial in Georgia will not happen before the November election. Plus, Senator Tim Scott continues his lying ways. I'll also show you what took place in Tulsa for the Black Wall Street Legacy Festival on Saturday. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got whatever the best, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time. And it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
The Minnesota DA has dropped murder charges against the state trooper who shot a black motorist during the traffic stop in January. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty charged Trooper Ryan Lonergan with second-degree unintentional murder, second-degree manslaughter, and first-degree assault for the July 31st, 2023 death of Ricky Cobb II. This is what she announced.
Lonergan's attorneys said he would testify to was that he thought Mr. Cobb was reaching for his gun, Lonergan's gun. That's something that they had never said before, never told us before. So we went back and we looked at the video over and over in slow motion. And what you can see from the video is that Mr. Cobb's hand at some point does come up. My guess, by the way, is that because Lonergan opened the door, pointed the gun at him, and started screaming at him, that his hand was coming up to protect himself. But the video doesn't prove that, and it doesn't disprove what Lonergan says. One of the other things that I think is of note of what Lonergan's lawyers say he would testify to is this. If you slow down the video, you will be able to see, and I think at some point we'll be able to release this, Sidey reaches into the car, and he is essentially draped across Mr. Cobb, trying to unbuckle the seatbelt. What Lonergan's lawyers said he would testify to is that in that split second, he realized his partner was draped over Mr. Cobb, and he carefully fired 2 shots into Mr. Cobb's torso so that he wouldn't hit his partner. Now, as to the believability of that, I won't comment.
Joining us now is Cobb family attorney Harry Daniels from Atlanta. Harry, glad to have you on the show. So, your thoughts on this decision?
Thank you, Roland, for having me on. This decision is ridiculous. What the county attorney stated, actually really makes the case even stronger from a prosecutorial standpoint. If Lonergan's attorney said that he carefully and intentionally shot into the side of Mr. Cobb at the time his partner was reaching over Mr. Cobb's body, then it really goes to the element of intentional and kind of premeditated. Now, the two positions don't match. He said he thought that Ricky was reaching for his gun. Well, you can see from the video, Lonergan is outside of the car on the passenger side. Ricky's is in the driver's side seat. There was no lunging, no reaching whatsoever. Roland, all you have here is a county attorney who succumbed to political pressure from law enforcement and gave in, essentially allowed a murderer to get away because she was afraid to prosecute the case once the heat from the outside political powers that be start putting pressure on her. At the end of the day, she's a politician. You're looking at job security. And what we have, again, is another black man here in America shot and killed unjustified by law enforcement with no accountability. This is no stranger to the state of Minnesota. You can look at Philando Castile, where it was a acquittal. You look at Dante Wright, where the person who shot and killed him was only given 2 years in prison and got out in a year, almost a little bit over a year. So there's no justice, no accountability when it comes to black lives in this country. This is a shame. The county attorney, when I went and spoke with her directly, I had reservations, concerns as to whether she was truthful in her position. When I say truthful, that they believed that they were going to prosecute this case to the full extent of the law. Now you have a position where she has made a 180 and nothing has changed. When I say change, the video is still the same. The mere fact that the killer makes a declaration of statements, and even in her statement, it goes to the credibility of him. And if Roland, if you're talking about credibility, the only people determine credibility in the court of law is a jury. It's not a judge. It's not a lawyer. It's a jury. If you had an issue with credibility, you send it to a jury, let the jury decide. That's what happened in New York with Donald Trump. They let the jury decide it, and they determined he had no credibility. But when it comes to black lives in this country, killed by law enforcement, don't even get the benefit of the doubt to even go to court and reach a jury.
Now, this is one of several charges, and so this is one that could have gone to the jury, and the jury could have just chosen to hear it and acquit or find him guilty. So she didn't have to actually drop it.
No, she didn't have to drop the charge. She didn't have to drop the charges at all. And and it's not here's the thing. I used to be a criminal defense lawyer, so I understand it well, dealing with cases and defending cases. This case here, when you take a approach and a position to charge a case with the charges she brought with voluntary and unintentional murder and reckless conduct and intentional assault, then you feel as though that the situation itself, Roland, when they're talking about policy, you don't need a policy. The policy is not important when you're talking about the law. The law says you don't shoot an unarmed person that's not a threat. There's no justification. They teach you that in grade school, that you don't hit a person in the back. Here, we're talking about what a policy didn't say specifically that he could not use a deadly force to extract a person from the car. What the hell is that? You can't use a deadly weapon to get a person out of the car if that person is not a threat to you or others. There's no law enforcement instruction manual is needed to have you have morals and good dignity and morality when it comes to humanity. So the district attorney, the county attorney, she gave in to the political pressure. She gave in to the police union. She was bullied. She hired these outside lawyers these outside lawyers, and essentially it was a sham where you're dealing with a case where you quickly, and I'm gonna say quickly, they took their time to bring these charges. Then all of a sudden, the defendant says, "Oh, I did this because of this." Well, hell, we expect the defendant say he did this because of this. I have never had a case where we prosecutor had a case with police officers who said they did it because. They always going to give a reason. The question is it a credible reason? Even in her own statement, press conference today, she felt it wasn't credible. So at the end of the day, I think the person that loses today is obviously the Cobb family. But most important, this county attorney looked like a joke. If they felt like the Lonergan was not responsible for the death of Ricky Cobb by virtue of criminal violation of laws, they should have never charged him. But when you take this approach to charge somebody, then you get political pressure, then you do a 180. It's sad. It's a sad day in America, and I feel for the Cobb family.
All right, Harriet Daniels. Well, we will certainly continue to follow this case, and hopefully we won't see other charges dropped.
Yeah, let's say this. We're also moving forward in our civil case. This case is not done from a long way. Myself and McCarty Sellers, we asked petition the Department of Justice to take a thorough review of this case, and this case civilly is still moving forward. So the district attorney won't do a job, at least we would do ours. So thanks, Roland. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, Harry, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right, folks, got to go to the break. We come back. We're going to talk about the Harvard Slavery Legacy Project, why two professors have actually resigned from that project. We'll discuss that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Hello, we're the Critter Fixers. I'm Dr. Bernard Hodges.
And I'm Dr. Terrence Ferguson.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The two Harvard University professors overseeing the creation of a public memorial dedicated to the enslaved people who helped shape the Ivy League institution have resigned as co-chairs of the Memorial Committee. English professor Tracy K. Smith and the director of the university's Carpenter Center for the Visual Arts, Dan Byers, were appointed in February 2023 to lead the 13-member committee. In their resignation letter, Smith and Byers say they stepped down over frustrations with senior Harvard administrators who tried to rush their process. To all parties involved and invested in the work of the H&LS Memorial Committee, I hope this letter finds you each well and safe during this long season of upheaval. Having come to the end of the academic year, Dan Byers and I are writing to elaborate on our recent decision to step down as co-chairs of the Harvard and the Legacy Slavery Memorial Committee, on which we have served since its inception, November 22nd, 2022. This decision, which neither of us takes lightly, extends from our sense that the necessary conditions for the work of memorialization, as agreed upon by committee members, are not yet manifest at the university. Based on our discussions with committee members in recent weeks, together we offer suggestions on how the Memorial Committee might adopt a more fruitful shift in course. The Memorial Committee was asked to undertake this important and complex work and has done so capably, expertly, diligently, and conscientiously. Several of us are faculty members in fields of history, art, film, and visual studies, theater, dance, and media, urban design, English, and African-American studies. Several are campus curators, writers, practicing artists, librarians, and program directors whose work engages with the very communities most profoundly touched by histories of enslavement and dispossession. Our everyday experience of Harvard is shaped by forms of awareness key to the work of memorialization and keenly attuned to the disparities and limitations long ingrained in institutions like universities. Bottom line is this here. Look, they make it clear that it's just way too much interference by the administration. I'm going to go to my panel, Dr. Julia Marvo, president and mayor of Bennett College, joining us right now from D.C., Dr. Amakongo Debinga, senior professorial lecturer, School of International Service at American University, Renita Shannon, former Georgia State representative. Juliana, go with you. Look, anytime you got something like this at one of these predominantly white institutions and you've got black folks over it, you're going to have folks sitting there trying to put their hands in all of this and muck the whole thing up. Plus, you've got a Harvard still dealing with all the drama over Israel and Gaza like other Ivy League institutions. And so these folks clearly are like, you know what, we're good.
Well, you know, Harvard was really never serious about dealing with the slave legacy. They never were really serious about it. There have been complaints about Harvard over the years from the law school, from other places, about their position on enslavement, about the role that enslavement has played on Harvard's legacy. And they never, ever really been serious. And so these two folks had enough. I mean, this is the litany. They had enough. They had some things, they had ideas. They wanted to address some of this. And the university, as you say correctly, had other things to deal with, but that's not the point. I mean, you're supposed to be able to multitask. Not to mention the fact that I'm wondering what the role that the departure of Dr. Claudine Gay as president had in this. Was there less or more enthusiasm because of her departure? But all I would say is that the climate that we live in right now, the anti-DEI, anti-blackness climate that we live in right now, and I know we're going to talk about some of that later in the program, but basically it gives people permission to be indifferent. So it's really easy to set up a commission, to set up a task force. So now you did that, you checked that box. Now, what are you going to do about it? I think that these people had ideas, and I think that they were rebuffed, and I think they absolutely had enough. They were working for 2 years. 2 years is a long time in academia speak to not even have a report come out. Who suppressed the report? What's the issue? So that's where I stand.
Look, on Congo, when you have this, you're going to have 1,000 folks trying to put their hands in stuff. And so that's how I see this. I mean, it's a long-ass statement they released. Give me the Cliff Note version. That is too much interference, too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, and one of the things, like you said, it's lengthy in terms of what they were saying. But one of the things that struck me was that they felt that Harvard was slowballing their efforts of these two and the committee in general to build relationships with the community of Cambridge and Boston. As somebody who's, both my parents got their doctorates from Harvard. My dad helped start the Du Bois Center there and helped revolutionize the Divinity School. We have a long history of being involved and around that university. And just being a native Bostonian, there's always been tension with the idea that, Harvard doesn't really see itself as part of the community, particularly as relates to the Black people of Boston. And so I was very happy that these two individuals, and I commend them for their great work, commented on that because it's really important. What we're seeing again is Harvard is caving into this DEI backlash, and it's extremely problematic because it was making some really good strides as it relates to building community relations and actually making sure that people who are in the surrounding areas felt like Harvard could be, for them as well, even if they weren't, university, members in any way, shape, or form. And so this is a setback for the community relations that Harvard was trying to build. And I quite frankly believe that with the relationships that these two individuals have supported within the local Boston community, there's going to be local backlash to this as well. It's not just something that's going to stay within the Harvard campus itself in terms of the frustration and backlash. And so I'm very interested to see how Harvard is going to respond to that as well.
Yeah.
The two that resigned, they did release a very long statement, but there were some key facts in their long statement that I do think everybody should, pay some attention to. One of them is that they said that while they were working on the project, they were pressured to sort of do as much media as possible around the project, but then they were discouraged from Harvard leadership as far as taking the time to build relationships with the local community members. And so that is something that's really important because we know as Black folks, you try to do a project about us that doesn't actually include us, we will quickly embarrass you once the project is complete. And so these two were trying to do it in a way that was respectful to the community and was respectful of the project, and that's not what Harvard wanted. I think the thing, too, that is really important to notice here, because this is a trend and you're hearing DEI professionals across the country say this, what these two professors are actually saying, what happened to them, which is that it's a lot of window dressing going on when institutions are saying we're doing something to memorialize or to make right to a step in racial justice. They essentially want the credit, and that's what comes with the lifting it up to the media. They want the credit, but they don't want the actual real tough work that goes behind making amends to actually happen.
Let's talk about this trial in Georgia, the Trump trial. It's not going to happen before the election. The Georgia Court of Appeals has made sure that by setting an October 4th date to hear the appeal of the refusal to disqualify DA Fani Willis from the case, Judge Scott McAfee denied the joint motion of Trump and other co-defendants on April 4th. Trump appealed his ruling, and the Court of Appeals eventually agreed to accept the appeal. Judge McAfee ordered that pretrial motions and discovery should continue while that appeal is pending. Still, with the appeals court setting oral arguments so far out, there's no possible way this case will go to trial before the election. The motion sought to disqualify Willis and her office from prosecuting the case and also asked the court to dismiss the indictment because of Willis's romantic relationship with Nathan Wade. The court was satisfied their relationship did not begin until after Wade started working for the DA's office. Although McAfee denied the defense motion, he did order Wade to be removed from the case. Renina, I said this from the outset, that this right here was an error on the part of Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. That what we've seen in the past several months, this trial has been delayed because of that. Both of them should have had enough sense to say, this is going to be a problem. You don't create problems. You try to be as clean as possible. And so now, as a result of this is not going to trial this year. This one is on DA Fani Willis. Renita?
Absolutely. I agree. The Trump lawyers, their tactic the entire time has been that they want to do anything they can to delay the trial going, because they know that once we have the election, if Trump is elected, he can make all of this go away. So their whole tactics have been delay, delay, delay. They file appeals when they know they have no shot of winning them, which I think is what this is. But it does serve the purpose that they want, which is to delay this as much as possible so that there will not be a decision, no trial can be held before the presidential election. So I agree with you. This is a case that I've continued to pay a lot of attention to because I was in the committee, in the room when the Trump lawyers came before my committee and asked us to throw out the votes of Georgians and try to basically steal the presidential election, which is what they are basically charged with in the indictment that Fani Willis did. So I do think that I agree with you, Roland. It was a complete misstep by the DA to allow herself to sort of give them something to work with in, just delaying this trial.
She served up on a silver platter, Congo, pure and simple.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. And to see this happen, to also see what the Justice Department did as it relates to taking 14 months to bring up their case against Trump, him and his lawyers take every advantage they can. And yes, this is something that lays at the hand of Fani Willis. You can't slip up as it relates to these guys because they exploit every single thing. And so, to be quite honest, I know these are state charges and things, but it's kind of like, I hate to agree with Don Jr. or whichever Trump said that the November election is really going to be the time for the ultimate verdict. Like, we can't depend on these trials to deliver anything for us. Yes, we can call him a convicted felon now, and we're going to see what happens on July 11th. But still, we have to continue to stay vigilant because too many of us put our faith in these trials and these attorneys and these different states, and it's just not enough to stop this man. November 5th, that is the date for.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm so disappointed in her lack of judgment, but it is what it is. And moving forward, as Renita said, these folks basically delay, deny. We're even seeing it with the New York case. We've seen it with the Florida case where the judge is one of the man's appointees, and she has thrown everything in but the kitchen sink. We see it in the D.C. case. We see it in the Supreme Court pondering whether or not he has blanket immunity for any crime he commits, which he asserted in 2016 that he had when he said he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. So Fani Willis played into their hands. The heart wants what the heart wants, but the heart could have waited for it because, frankly, basically, as I think Congo said, she served herself up on a silver platter. I don't wish to diss the sister or, throw her under the bus, but this was a huge tactical error. And taking it to October 4th means this will not be heard until after the election. Now, this does say one thing, though. If y'all want justice, I say y'all because there's some of y'all people out there who, I'm not going to vote. I don't like Biden, which is stupidity. It's compounded stupidity. And if you're mad about me calling you stupid, JulianneMalvo@AOL.com. You stupid. Because basically this will not be adjudicated any place but at the ballot box.
Folks, sports commentator Colin Cowherd, man, did he tear into Trump. And look, here's a guy who was a conservative Republican, and he had a whole lot to say about the orange one. Check this out.
I've said this about Trump before. He's trying to sell me an America that doesn't exist. Let's say I got busted for some really bad crime in court, a drug crime, and my wife did too in a separate case. And then so did one of my kids, my manager, my agent, and my attorney. It would be reasonable to conclude that I'm shady and involved in a business that's not terribly legal. Well, Donald Trump is now a felon. His campaign chairman was a felon. So is his deputy campaign manager, his personal lawyer, his chief strategist, his national security advisor, his trade advisor, his foreign policy advisor, his campaign fixer, and his company CFO. They're all felons, judged by the company you keep. It's a cabal of convicts. So it's not that I'm not willing to vote for conservatives. I said I would have voted for Mitt Romney. Seemed like a decent family man. I liked the second Bush, George Bush Sr.'s son. I liked him. I thought he was a decent American, a decent human. I liked his wife, Laura Bush. I thought they were decent people. If everybody in your social circle is a felon, I don't think it's rigged. I don't think the world's against you. And to get people to agree on anything, 34 counts, 0 for 34. I mean, that's a batting slump even the New York Mets could be impressed with. 0 for 34. When you're constantly trying to sell me on an America that I don't see, I'm not saying inflation's not an issue, but I get on airplanes all the time, and it's not a bunch of rich people. I get on planes, there's people in normal clothes, they don't look rich to me, and the planes are all full, and the hotels are all full, and the freeways are all full. That means people are going to work. You're trying to sell me on this story and this narrative that's just not true. Trump's entire game plan is the country is in a free fall. But when everybody in your team, everybody in your group, your cabal is a felon, maybe the world's not against you. Stop trying to sell me on everything's rigged. The country's falling into the sea. The economy's terrible. The economy's okay. It's not like on fire, but the America that I live in is imperfect, but compared to the rest of the world, I think we're doing okay.
I'm a Congo, a cabal of convicts. He nailed it.
Oh. Yeah, I was going to bring that one up too. And, this is what is needed, to be quite honest, because where people here who are watching are pretty much baked in. People who may watch MSNBC might be baked in terms of who, how they view Trump. But it's going to be guys like this, who are conservative leaning, but also have a reach in the sports world that are going to also help turn the tide, and reach out to some of those independent voters. This is still Biden's election to lose. And, Trump keeps losing more and more support. But if people like him, I love what George Conway did on CNN over the weekend when he called out, one of the commentators and said, I can't believe CNN's paying you, the way that you're just lying about, these types of things. This is what it's going to take. Republicans against Trump keep coming hard. And again, it's not about, whether we all agree 100%, but it's like, do we want to be able to have more elections after November 5th? And he called it plain and clear. People are working, people are traveling. This is the basic idea of America that Trump's people are trying to sell his followers against. And the fact that Cowherd is speaking up against this, there needs to be more like him following his lead. And this is going to be part of how we deliver that final verdict on November 5th.
Leon?
It's interesting to hear this guy is really on point, and the cabal of I wrote it down because I'm going to use it. The cabal of conservatives is a wonderful alliteration, but it's more than that. Here's what we know: looking at attack on Larry Hogan. Now, I'm not a Larry Hogan fan whatsoever. He's always kind of played it narrow. The Republican candidate for the United States Senate. He's always kind of tried to be Mr. Bipartisan. And so he said something quite mild, I think, that people should respect the jury. And when he gets back to the RNC is that's the campaign. Basically, they are a cabal, and they're demanding absolute loyalty, absolute, unfettered, blind loyalty to the orange man who doesn't deserve it. And what we see, I didn't think they were going to get 34 out of 34. I figured they were going to fudge it and maybe they get like 20 out of 34 just because. I just didn't figure the whole jury. But if you got one, you got all of it because there was a pattern in practice. And so now you basically have these folks who want to make excuses. What's his name? The orange man said, it's basically his constituents aren't going to be happy. Well, they never been happy. They like him. What about that would make you happy? And so basically, Roland, what we have here is a situation where loyalty is going to lead us over the cliff. That's really what's going on. But again, always, we all know it's November 5th. And what we have to do if we oppose that man is to organize in such a way a narrow victory. It's not 1 point or 2 point. And it's a resounding victory, so that there is no question that he lost to the loss, to the loss, to the loss. That's the work for those people like Latasha and Melanie, the sisters who are out there doing the work, the brothers out there doing the work. That's the work we have to do. We have to make sure it's a resounding defeat for the Orange Man.
Rita?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see a lot of these folks that are talking right now, what they actually will do in November, because as we well know, conservatives have a history, even going back to before 2016, but let's just say 2016 with Trump, of saying bad things about him and saying that, they don't like what he's saying or doing, and then they turn right around and vote for him. So these comments are entertaining. It's interesting what Colin said, but I do think that for anybody who does not want to see Trump elected, please don't rest on your laurels with these comments, because a lot of these people will turn around and just vote for Trump. I do think one thing that he said is actually good for resetting the goalpost, because so many have said, and Trump keeps saying this too, that the official verdict on the New York charges the felonies that he was just convicted of, the official ruling will be in November. And that's not how it works. We have a criminal justice system. A decision was made. The decision stands until another decision is made in court. And so for everybody else, particularly Black Americans in this country who have been convicted in a court of law, it doesn't matter how many people think you are innocent. You're convicted until there is another decision. So I do think we need to get back to that. He has been convicted of these felonies. It doesn't matter if everybody in the world disagrees with the decision of what happened, the jury's decision. The decision is a decision.
Indeed. And every time Senator Tim Scott opens his mouth, I just sit here and go, oh, my goodness. I've never seen somebody kiss more Trump ass outside of Eric and Donald Jr. He is desperate to be Trump's vice president. Listen to the sheer BS he uttered on Fox News.
Can he create jobs for the poorest Americans? Good news is he created more than 7 million jobs, with the highest percentage going to women, African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians. What we know about 4 years under Donald Trump is we had low unemployment, low inflation, high enthusiasm, law and order in our streets, and we've had the exact opposite under Joe Biden.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh.
First of all, let's get some basic facts. 6 million jobs under Trump, 13 million jobs under Biden. Mm-hmm. Crime is going down. Mm-hmm. It was going up under Trump. Then you hear all this, oh, yeah, low inflation. Then, of course, you had this idiot completely bungled COVID. All right, we saw what happened there as well. They're all lies. Oh, Mark Cuban even broke this down, how all of these Republicans are talking about, oh, how Biden is destroying the oil industry. Oh, I'm sorry. They never produced this much of oil in the United States ever. That's another lie that's out of the window. Oh, wages going up. Higher on the Biden. I mean, Julian, it's lie after lie after lie when it comes to the economic numbers.
It really is. I mean, the numbers are there. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is impartial. Most of the people who work there are career employees. They have no reason to fudge the numbers for Biden, for Trump, or for anybody else. The numbers tell the story, as you said. 6 million jobs under Dump and 13 million under President Biden. Unemployment rate lower under President Biden than under the Orange Man. We can go down the list. The one issue, the sticky wicket, of course, is inflation. And, of course, much of that can be attributed to COVID. But inflation is coming down. As the commentator, the conservative commentator said, they're trying to tell a story of America that just does not exist. You know, the crime down. We can just go down the list. Things are better. Now, for people at the bottom, they're not that much better. And you, perhaps, or somebody else can explain Black men to me. I've never been able to figure it out. But those brothers who keep saying they're going to vote for Trump, but, you know, Terrence Woodbury and others have said those numbers may not be accurate. But the bottom line is Tim Scott is not only a liar, he's a blatant liar. He is, like I said, if his lips were not brown, you can see the feces running off of him because that's how much behind he likes to kiss just to make sure that the orange man considers him for vice president. But what does he bring to the ticket? Nothing. What does he bring to the table? Nothing. There is something wrong with that brother. But there's been something wrong with him for a very long time, as we all know.
And again, you're not going to get pushback on Fox News, Renita, because they lie constantly.
Right, and I think it's time for this. You ain't got to lie, Craig. You ain't got to lie. And Tim Scott, it's time for that for him because he is always coming up with these fantasy scenarios of what he thinks is happening, and all of it always in support of Trump. The reality is, at the end of the day, voters do not care what statistics actually show. So he's wrong on his facts. But even if he was correct, voters don't care about any of that. Voters look at how they think and feel about how far their money is going. So if voters feel that they are able to work 40 hours a week and pay for basics, then they feel the economy is great. Voters do not go and say, oh, let me see what an economist said about the economy to tell me how I should feel about it. That's just not what voters do. They look at how are they getting along? What is their quality of life? How hard are they having to work to pay for the basics? So why he come up and just tell these lies that are easily things that can be fact checked and disputed? I don't know.
I just sit here and I'm like, dude, just stop lying. And on Congo, it's just like constantly. And then he was like, oh my goodness, blacks are running over to the Republic. No, they're not. Black folks are not running over to Don. And now the Republicans are trying his other lie that, they're going to start using his criminal conviction as a way to appeal to black people. So what they're saying is, black people, you're felons.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if anybody think that's going to work, I got a bridge I want to tell you. Look, the way that they are using him and Byron Donalds and these other guys to get out there and be these surrogates and just get out there and flat out lie, it's sad. What's also really sad is that the people who need to hear that these guys are lying are most likely not going to see that truth unless they do hear it from the, Colin Cowards of the world, because they're not paying attention to us. But the fact of the matter is, as we continue to plug away and challenge this not only misinformation but disinformation about the Trump versus Biden economy, it's also very important that we make sure that we point out the fact that Biden's economy is better than Trump's pre-COVID, because they always want to throw out the whole thing about, COVID, and that's what led to the reduction in these numbers, unemployment, economy. That's not true. Trump is doing worse than Biden before COVID, and that's extremely important. And so at every measure, there's no inflation still an issue, as Dr. Malvo said, but at every measure, Biden is beating him, and particularly as it relates to the black community, issues relating to diabetes. We can talk about student loans. I saw Dr. Wes Bellamy last week talking about how his loans got canceled. I mean, there are so many diabetes. There's so many stories we can be telling that can refute what people are saying about what Trump's doing, and not in the grand scale. We can bring it down to personal things that are happening in our community that our communities are actually seeing results of right now and will be seeing as the months go forward. And we got to keep hammering that home because they're going to keep hammering these lies, and Fox is part of the problem, as always.
And the lies will come fast and furious. All right, folks, the next story. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, they are blocking the Fearless Fund from awarding $20,000 grants to businesses owned by black women. The case is being litigated. Conservative activist Ed Bloom claimed that the grant program is likely racial discriminatory. The appeals court, in a 2-1 decision, disagreed with the federal judge who ruled in September that the lawsuit was unlikely to prevail on First Amendment grounds. The Atlanta firm was working to boost scarce venture capital funding for black women. The ruling could have sweeping implications for race-based initiatives in the private sector. What we have here, Julian, on this particular issue here, and this was interesting. What these white conservatives are doing is they're using the 1866 Civil Rights Act, which was meant to benefit black folks. They're using this, they're weaponizing this against black people.
Well, it's highly ironic that they would be doing this to use something that empowered us to disempower us. It's highly ironic. The other piece of this is these people are so ahistoric, they do not get it. In other words, why do you need a fearless fund? Because black women got less than 1% of the venture capital dollars that were available. Why was that? Not because their proposals were faulty, but because of structural discrimination. So they're denying discrimination and then claiming discrimination against white people. Now, they're not saying that a fund that benefits women, let's say, would be discriminatory. They're not saying that a college scholarship that says for Irish descendants will be discriminatory. Their anti-blackness reeks. It actually reeks of their hate of black people. And Roland, you've written about it in your book, White Fear, and many of us have been looking at this. But the bottom line is we can just go back to the end of Reconstruction. Whenever black people make gains, white people are sitting in the cut, prepared to take them back. So we're seeing here some young black women, amazing sisters, who said, we want to empower some black women entrepreneurs. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it is these hateful, evil, ignorant, ahistorical white people are like, oh, but that's discriminatory. As if our whole existence in this country has not been discriminatory.
Renita?
Yeah, so this is just a preliminary injunction. So I think that's important for everybody to realize is that basically before anything has really gone to court, a court has basically made a preliminary ruling. So the fight is not over. And so, folks, don't give up. The other thing that I think is important to look at with this is, like Dr. Malveaux said, I'll take it a step further. This is not the only type of organization that exists like this to specifically lift up communities that are consistently overlooked. Sometimes it's funds to support women. In this case, it's funds to support black women. And that is always looked at as a First Amendment sort of way of using your voice is by giving money to certain groups. And so I do hope that eventually the Fearless Fund will prevail in court. Because there has not been a ruling like this that specifically says that this is not freedom of speech for at least 150 years. So this is a preliminary injunction, and I'm hoping that the final decision that we'll see will actually reflect that this is a this is a First Amendment right for the Fearless Fund to operate.
McCongo?
Look, Melinda French Gates just decided that she's going to give over $1 billion to support organizations that help with the advancement of women, including in organizations that centering around I think it's called the American Center for Men for Boys or something like that, to help boys, become better and stronger so that they don't, hurt women in many particular ways. I don't see Blum and them coming out against her. Why? Because she's rich and powerful and influential. These guys are using their influence in the same way that they did to go against affirmative action to target smaller groups that just don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to put up an instant block. And so now the Fearless Fund has to spend more resources in court, more time on lawyers, and they're going to do what they can to try to break this organization. And so, but they are very selective. And so you're going against race, but if you can get a twofer, go against something that targets race as well as women, then this is the conservative dream as it relates to people like Blum. And so we have to continue to raise awareness about this. We need to continue to fight for this. And many more organizations and individuals who are in our community and have resources need to take the same type of that Melinda French Gates has taken in terms of using your money and philanthropy to help build some of these organizations as well, so that one day we wouldn't even need a Fearless Fund. But until then, we have to keep fighting to make sure that the Fearless Fund can keep its doors open and that other organizations that do the same thing are not going to be sent into oblivion by organizations and people like Blum and the Russos of the world.
Indeed. Folks, on Saturday, it was the 161st anniversary of the raid in which Harriet Tubman helped free more than 700 slaves in South Carolina. Well, to commemorate this, a monument of the conductor of the Underground Railroad was unveiled in Beaufort, South Carolina. Tubman led more than 700 slaves from Low Country plantation to freedom. Born enslaved on the eastern shore of Maryland in 1822, Tubman is the best-known conductor of the Underground Railroad, as she led at least 70 slaves in Maryland to freedom before the Civil War. But her work in South Carolina during the Civil War often gets overlooked. The monument is the first in the state, marking her daring June 1863 mission along the Combahee River. And thank goodness we have monuments like this on Congo, because we got enough of these damn Confederate monuments all throughout this country, especially in the South.
Absolutely, and they're going to be trying to put up even more. And so it's really important, and particularly coming off the story that we just talked about, talking about a fearless fund, and here we're talking about a fearless sister, right? They never got her on the dollar, on the money that people were talking about before. And so really when it comes to honoring our ancestors and people who fought for us, Black people being freed in this country made America better for everybody. And so when people, and I've seen stories over the years, we've seen it like, the whole Russell Simmons, Harriet Tubman, slavery skid and all of these things. I feel like Harriet Tubman has been somebody who's been kind of disrespected over the last few years. And so when we talk about, having these statues up in these memorials, particularly at a time where in South Carolina and other places, they're looking to remove from books with little history that was already taught about her, it's really high time that we continue to stand up. And these efforts are not happening overnight. So I commend all of the people down there who put this together, because these statues and things can take years to happen, and to not give up the fight in the era of Trump and now in this time right now when we have Biden as president, but we have all of these anti-DEI efforts going on to still fight and make that happen. I give them all the props in the world, and I hope we continue to have more statues that celebrate her and our ancestors who fought for our freedom.
A lot of people don't realize that there's a Harriet Tubman museum there in Macon, Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad to see this monument. Number one, it's an amazing monument erected. I think we're used to seeing just singular statues for monuments. And so I think people are kind of used to that. But this thing is so expansive. I mean, look at the back where you can see all the people following them. I mean, this is a monument that looks like it's worth traveling just to see it. And so I'm excited about that. But the second thing is, like I always continue to point out, is that things like this are so important. Anytime you have a museum, as you mentioned, the Harriet Tubman Museum, and you now have this monument, it's important because in a time where states are removing our history and our story from the classroom, when you have monuments up and things like this, it makes people ask questions. Okay, who was Harriet Tubman? It forces history to be told, and it forces us to talk about our history, which is being removed from schools. So I'm excited to see this, and I think that we need more of this now more than ever to combat what's happening in schools.
Julian?
I'm excited about this monument. I'm always excited about Harriet Tubman. There is the Harriet Tubman House in Maryland, which I've visited several times. One time just with a blank notebook saying, "Sister, give me some inspiration." She was all that and then some, but the South Carolina part of her legacy is often overlooked. It's important that this monument goes up at the same time that Virginia Governor, Youngkin, is trying to reverse laws that took some of those Confederate monuments down. He wants them back up, and he's being very clear about it. So, the history, they are attempting to erase our history. And this monument, this glorious, large, substantial monument, is an antidote to white lies. It's just an antidote to it. It says, we are here. We did this. We have to keep doing this. We have to keep building monuments, statues. The National African American Reparations Commission, on which I serve, has a plank that says we want to commemorate. Like Brian Stevenson at the Lynching Museum, basically a plaque wherever somebody was lynched, so people remember that people were lynched. We need to see all these folks. And the other thing about the Harriet Tubman that's so exciting, there are very few statues to women, and to Black women in particular. Well, there are very few statues to Black people. Let's start there. You got all a white boy has to do is ride on a horse, and they make a statue out of it. So there are very few statues to women and to Black women, and so this is just so very important. And I agree with Renita. The next time I have some spare change in a few days, I'd probably go down there and look at it myself.
Folks, some sad news came out on Sunday night when Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee announced that she's being diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, is undergoing treatment. The 74-year-old issued a statement. I first saw her when she was at the funeral of Reverend William Lawson in Houston. I was there Friday before last. It was when I saw her and when I heard her, I mean, she normally has her very, booming voice, if you will. But it was a dramatic change from the the last time she was on our show. And so in her statement, she actually made the announcement by saying, today my fight is more personal, but I will approach with the same faith and the same courage. My doctors have confirmed my diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. I'm currently undergoing treatment to battle this disease that impacts tens of thousands of Americans every year. I'm confident that my doctors have developed the best possible plan to target my specific disease. The road ahead will not be easy, but I stand in faith that God will strengthen me. She's the third CBC member in the past 4 years to be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Congressman John Lewis and Congressman Alcee Hastings, both of them have been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Both have passed away. The reality of this disease, Renita, it has a 96% fatality rate. And so only 4% of folks who get pancreatic cancer live up to 5 years or beyond that. And so Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee certainly has a tough road. She's lost a lot of weight. You can also, again, hear it in her voice as well. But as she says, she's going to continue the fight.
Absolutely. You did lay out the grim reality of pancreatic cancer and how it is, of the cancers that people typically get. This is, I would say most people would agree, it's the scariest one because it's really hard to survive pancreatic cancer long term. I'm really hoping that she has caught this at an early stage. I'm hoping that, as she said, her treatment plan is specific and that it will be effective for her to, allow her to continue moving in her legacy and at least enjoy, what time she does have.
This is back to back to back, us talking about fearless women in some way, shape, or form. And when I look at all that she has done and continues to do for our community, I know she talked about this as a journey she's dealing with, alone and it's personal. We understand that, but she's not alone. I mean, there's so many prayers up for her and everyone surrounding her for her to be able to handle this in the best way possible. And so I just hope that she sees this and that she knows this, that we love her and we're thankful for everything she has done for us. And we're just going to continue to pray along with her that she pulls through.
Julian?
Sheila is my sister and my friend. We've been in the trenches together. I love her dearly, and I'm so sad about this. She took the baton from Congressman John Conyers to continue H.R. 40 with reparations legislation. And every time NARC, National African American Reparations Commission, has called on her to show up at a town hall, to travel somewhere, she's been there. But that's who she is. She is a fighter. And so she's going to fight this cancer just like she fights racism. But the sad news, as Renita said, is that pancreatic cancer is not only fast-acting, but it really doesn't have a high survival rate. We just have to lift her up in prayer because she is a woman of faith. We have to just surround her with the love and to give back to her what she's given to our community. I mean, I'm so real. I can't tell you how sad that I am about this. It's really quite a body blow to the Black community. Not to her, yes, to her and to her family, her son, who's a PhD economist, but also to the Black community because she's fought for us. She has fought for us. And so now we got to fight for her.
Indeed, indeed. So certainly our prayers go out to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Folks, real quick break. We come back. I got to deal with this drama over a silly-ass foul against Caitlin Clark in a basketball game, and people are just losing their damn minds over this. I got to deal with this. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037- 0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. First, President Barack Obama's road to the White House. We got about 500 copies of the book available. And so this actually is all of the coverage of the 2008 election. But the other thing is this here. I talked to folks like Malik Yoba, Hill Harper, Erica Alexander, Kevin Lau, Spike Lee, Tatiana Ali. But there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff in here as well, where I talked about some of the stuff that went down at CNN. Also, when you go through here, a lot of the photos that you see in here, photos that I actually shot, photos that were my time at CNN. And so what I decided to do, because one, I published the book and I own it myself, is that so I said, you know what, I'm going to slash the price to $10. I'm not reprinting the book. So once we are sold out of these 500, that's it. They're gone. So you can go to RolandSMartin.com/the-first to get a copy of this book. Everybody who orders this book through the website, not on Amazon, only through RolandSMartin.com. I will personally autograph and mail you a copy of this book. It's all of the covers, the actual interviews that I did with him. And just to show you, of course, when it came out, there's actually even in here the interviews that I did with him and Michelle Obama, which won TV One cable network's its first 2 NAACP Image Awards. And so all of that for $10. Go to RolandSMartin.com the first and order your copy today.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder.
Right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
Okay, y'all. The Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky played on Saturday. Of course, Angel Reese plays for the Sky. Caitlin Clark plays for the Indiana Fever. And, oh, Lord, have all these people, these commentators, and these folks who have no clue about the WNBA have been losing their minds because Kennedy Carter, a Texas A&M alum, committed a hard foul against, oh, my goodness, Caitlin Clark. Oh, the last thing we can do is have hard fouls in the WNBA. So here's what actually happened. Watch this.
Mabry doubled off to Carter. Her jumper is good. Kennedy Carter now with 12 points off the bench. And Clark.
All right, so Kennedy Carter gives Caitlin Clark a love tap. It's a shove. And, oh, my goodness, they've been losing their minds. Now, there's a thing called context. And again, folks are like, this is ridiculous. This makes no sense. It's just wrong. This can't be allowed. Do any of y'all watch basketball? WNBA or the NBA? Folk get pushed, shoved. Are we serious? Oh, just in case y'all didn't quite understand the context, let me roll back what happened prior to this play. Watch this.
1 for 2 at the line. Carter had it deflected by Clark, who comes over the steal. Here's Clark. Clark using the Boston screen. Carter got over it. Bump from behind, and Indiana able to retain possession. Boston, mid-range fake, the pull-up, short, the follow, no. Another chance, won't go for Boston. Loose ball, this time it's good. Aaliyah Boston flips it in.
So maybe y'all didn't quite see it. So I'm just going to slide this back a little bit. So at the top of the screen, I want y'all to watch, after the bucket is made, watch Caitlin Clark turn back and talk some trash to Kennedy Carter. It's at the top of the video. Watch this.
Boston, loose ball, this time it's good. Aaliyah Boston flips it in after the
Now, Caitlin Clark talks trash on the basketball court all the time, just like Larry Bird did. So guess what? When you talk trash to somebody, all right, they're going to remind your ass what's going on. So why are these people literally losing their minds and how, oh my God, what's going on? Do y'all want to see some stupidity? How about the dumbasses with the Chicago Tribune editorial board? Mind you, she doesn't play for the Chicago Sky. This is the Chicago Tribune editorial board. At least go to my iPad. From the editorial board, the foul committed by Chicago Sky guard Kennedy Carter on Caitlin Clark was egregious. Outside of a sporting contest, it would have been seen as an assault. I don't know if these are all new people with the Chicago Tribune, but clearly you didn't have anybody with the Tribune who was on the editorial board when the Bulls would play the Pistons and the Pistons would beat the hell out of Michael Jordan, and they called it the Jordan rules, and their deal is when he brought his ass down the lane, you put a hurting on Michael Jordan. Yeah. Y'all, Magic Johnson, they were whooping his ass when he came into the NBA. Oh, you gonna come in here hot dogging it? His own teammates were giving him hell. Larry Bird had a crazy fight with Dr. J. I mean, we can go on and on and on. I remember Kareem Abdul-Jabbar mollywopped several players. So I'm trying to understand here why we ain't even going to talk about the brawl at the Palace with the Pistons and Indiana Pacers. Can we please stop this snowflake crap with Caitlin Clark? Okay? Come on. Guess what? One of the other centers threw Angel Reese down on the floor, and that was called, hey, boo, welcome to the WNBA. This is called sports. And so then you got all these folks, then you got crazy-ass people saying stuff like Pat McAfee on ESPN, his silly ass, and he's now since apologized for this utterly ridiculous comment. But listen to Pat McAfee explain what's going on here, and he sounds like an idiot.
Is she what? I don't know. I just, with my eyes, I couldn't see if she's Caucasian or not. So I think what we're trying to say is what the WNBA currently has is what we like to describe as a cash cow. There is a superstar. And we're not saying that the players on the court need to act any differently. That's the athletes are going to do what athletes are going to do in any sport. And I think we're all learning that WNBA, that's old school football, baby. That is old school football. But I would like the media people that continue to say, this rookie class, this rookie class, this rookie class. Nah, just call it for what it is. There's one white bitch for the Indiana team who is a superstar. And is it because she stayed in Iowa, put an entire state on her back, took a program from nothing to a multiple-year success story? Is it because she would go on to break the entire...
That's a whole bunch of BS. First of all, let's just unpack some things here. First, Caitlin Clark is not a WNBA superstar. She was a superstar in college. Now, has she brought lots of attention? Absolutely. Absolutely. I talked about this beforehand, that a lot of the attention, the Nike deal, all of these different things, I mean, we can go on and on and on, and how everybody's benefiting. But they're also benefiting because the previous generation, what they built. They also are benefiting because we saw female stars in college. One of them, Angel Reese. In fact, Angela Reese, and she talked about this whole thing as well, making it clear that folk also watching me. See, this is where Pat McAfee was wrong, because what he was saying there is that, oh, this rookie class is only about Caitlin Clark. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's really, I'm telling you, Angela Reese and Caitlin Clark. This is Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. Excuse me, this is Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. It's what it is. And I accept the reality of black and white. I do. Because that's America. The biggest money fight was what? In boxing? George Clooney and Larry Holmes. Yeah, that's black and white. This is America. But I'm tired of these people acting like she can't be filed. Here's the whole deal. If you're Caitlin Clark and you talk trash, your ass gonna get smacked. And Kennedy Carter said, listen, little girl, you new to this, I'm true to this. Kennedy Clark was a baller at Texas A&M. She was an All-American. She was balling in the WNBA, had some issues in Atlanta and Los Angeles. She scored 19 points for that game, outscoring Caitlin Clark. But this is real simple. When you play grown-ass women are going to talk to you like you're a rookie. So I need all of these men and all of these women and all of these people who ain't never followed the WNBA. Oh, by the way, I'm from Houston. First three-time champion of the Houston Comets. I'm quite familiar with the WNBA, so I ain't new to this. I'm true to this. But when you have these utterly ridiculous people like Megyn Kelly saying stupid stuff, like look at this idiot. Instead of taking cheap shots at Caitlin Clark and miring themselves in blinding envy of her, they should try to be more like her. They'd play better and their lives would improve. Hey, dumbass Megyn Kelly. Caitlin Clark has already set the rookie record for most turnovers as a rookie. There are other players playing way better than her. Oh, by the way, Megyn, because you don't know shit about WNBA, Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever, they're 2-8. So, oh, by the way, Sunday's game, she scored, I think, was it 3 points or 5 points? She didn't even hit double digits. So there's a notion that, oh my God, be like her. Hey, it's called toughen the hell up. You're now in pro ball. And I don't understand for the life of me, Renita, why these people are such snowflakes as if they've never watched sports before. This is what happens when you decide to come in as the hot rookie. Ask Kobe what happened. They were like, yo, we're going to put you on your ass. In fact, I remember that video of the players like, I ain't passing his ass the ball at the All-Star game. So this ain't new in sports. And so guess what? Caitlin Clark, she going to have to deal with, like everybody else, take your ass to the weight room, bulk up, because they going to hit you.
Yeah, this whole thing is so crazy. And what the Chicago Tribune said is absolutely outrageous, to say that this would be considered assault on anywhere else if it weren't on a basketball court. Give me a break. You would have to go far and wide to find a solicitor that would actually try to give somebody an assault charge over essentially a push. That is ridiculous. That's not worth the paperwork or the charges. So they definitely overblew it. And I think that they overblew it because it looks like there's a racial difference between Caitlin and Kennedy. The second thing is, when I saw in print the interview that they did with Caitlin after, and she herself even said, this is what happens in basketball. There's nothing to do. You know, the shove happened. I had to pick myself up and reset my attitude, and you keep moving. It's just a part of basketball. So really, this is just a lot of people blowing it up. And I think that they're doing that because she is a white woman. And I think that the root of all of this is really going back to sort of try to protecting that white femininity, because we've never seen
here's a game. Renita, here's the game 2 weeks earlier. Y'all, here's the game 2 weeks earlier. Watch these two centers go at it. Hard foul. Uh-oh, about to come to blows. What you gonna do? Yo, this is sports. This is sports. And the reality is this here. If the video we showed, Caitlin Clark was talking trash to Kennedy Carter after the basket. And on Congo, she was like, Oh, okay. I got something for your ass. We go down to court.
Yep. And Caitlin Clark also elbowed her as well during those plays as well, which
it was. I saw it. Tussle for the ball. You go high, but it wasn't like. I mean, I've seen some elbows, so I mean, it wasn't that big deal. But I mean, but it's all a part of the game, and it's gonna get physical.
No, absolutely. And I think people also forgot that other malice at the Palace when I think it was the Sparks versus the Shock in 2008, a WNBA game that, turned into a brawl of some sort. This is part of the game and very frustrating. I'm frustrated with the cloak that has been wrapped around Caitlin Clark. And it's no fault of her own. She gets out there. She plays hard. She doesn't play into any of the race stuff. She doesn't play into any of the other things. She gets on the court, talks her trash, does her thing just like anybody else out there. But this idea of how she has to be protected because she's saving the league, and people talking about, now charter flights are happening because of what she said. People have been speaking about charter flights for years, and now it's happening. And so she has accelerated things that have already been happening. And so I think that that's a great thing. But what is the league going to start giving automatic flagrant fouls now if she gets touched in a particular way? This is ultimately going to hurt her success as the league goes forward. And I want to also shout out Monica McNutt on ESPN's First Take, as well as Jamel Hill, who've been out there speaking about a lot of the sexism that people have been putting out there just in their comments about the WNBA in general. But getting back to the issue of Caitlin Clark, they can't have this mentality of we're going to protect this woman at all costs because she's the savior of the league. She will save the league, quote unquote. She gets out there, competes, and fights hard. And this Pat McAfee talking about she's the only one with that sexist statement that he made and offensive statement. There are so many, Cardoso, Reese, and so on and so forth. And so I'm glad that I'm able to learn more about the league, watch the league, and I am going to listen to the people, mainly the women commentators who know about the league and follow it, and they need to be uplifted as well. But all of this other nonsense, I'm seeing why is Morning Joe covering this? Did they talk about what Alyssa Thomas did to Angel Reese? This is ridiculous.
I mean, right. I mean, it's. I mean, look, you referenced the fight Detroit Shock. Go to my iPad. I mean, this is the video right here. They went at it. I mean, the bottom line is, to me, that looked much bigger than the Caitlin Clark stuff, Julian. These people, this just goes to show you that, one, you got folks who never watched the WNBA. They're snowflakes, and they want her to be treated with kid gloves. And it's a gross overreaction, and it's called basketball. Suck it up and deal with it.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things you have to say is, we've seen elbows, we've seen pushing, we've seen shoving. It happens with the men and with the women. That's how it goes down. It's not, that's just how it is. But the reaction is because of white women's frailty. All these people are railing around, virtually clutching their pearls because poor little Caitlin Clark got knocked down. Hell, if you want to play with the big girls, you got to be a big girl. And she wasn't complaining. I'll say that. She's been very aware of the racial differences, even with Angel. She wasn't complaining. But all these protectors, I call them quasi-Klan members. Back in the day, if a white woman said she was looked at ways, suddenly there was a lynching. There's one story from back in the day. I know you're sick of me and my stories, Roland, but I tell them anyway, where a brother was walking down the street and a white woman was bathing in the window. Now, why was the bathing in the window? So then she said the man was eyeballing her. She bathed in the window. They lynched her. So this is basically fast forward. You got these folks. You can't push Caitlin Clark. Well, if Caitlin Clark wants to pay WNBA, somebody gonna push her. They're gonna push her more than once. She needs to up her game. She was a great college superstar, and she did bring a lot of attention to the league. I give her props for that. But guess what? She has not at all met her accolades in terms of the quality of her play. And the fact that she got her behind knocked down, hey, I ain't mad at nobody.
And listen, that's going to happen. This right here is video of another WNBA game. The players were going at it, jawing at each other. The refs called technical fouls on them. It happens. I mean, so bottom line is, this is what it's called sports. I mean, I don't understand why people are just losing their damn minds over this. Bottom line is here. And let me be real clear. Okay, for all the folks who are talking about, well, how should you respond? Listen, I remember when it was Larry Bird and Bill Laimbeer. And listen, Larry Bird was not taking nothing from the Detroit Pistons and Bill Laimbeer. And Bird fought many folk. And let me be real clear, Bird was a white boy from Indiana who could ball, who could straight up ball. But listen, when he was fighting, he went after Dennis Rodman. Go to the video. He was fighting Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer. He didn't care. Watch, for all y'all people who tripping on Caitlin Clark, hello, watch this right here.
I don't remember Larry Bird getting as angry as I saw him there.
Bird would stand for getting pulled down on a layup, but not on a play like that with the clock running down. And he really got taken down very hard. And, of course, Bird is very upset at Laimbeer and has been for a long time.
So all I'm saying, y'all sitting here tripping, them were the days in the NBA when they was sitting here just swinging. That little bump on Caitlin Clark, man, that was a love tap from the Detroit Pistons. That was a love tap. All right, y'all. We got to go. Renita, Julian, Omakongo, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Folks, we had some significant audio issues to begin the top of the show. Hopefully we got them resolved. The goal is not to have any of these problems with tomorrow's show. And so, again, we appreciate for y'all sticking around. Thank you so very much. I'll have for you tomorrow the video, of course, from Tulsa, when I was at the Black Wall Street Legacy Festival. Anthony Hamilton performed, so we had a great time there, and so I have that for you tomorrow. And so until then, folks, do me a favor, support us at Bring the Funk Fan Club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. Send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. All y'all YouTube folks, we should be at 1,000 likes. We only got 658. Come on, y'all. Hit that like button. Let's get 300 likes before I finish signing off. So again, send your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also, of course, get our book, The First. President Barack Obama's Road to the White House, original report by Roland S. Martin. Look, I got less than 200 copies. I actually counted. I got the books from Houston. I got less than 200 copies. Once they're gone, they're gone. I'm not printing anymore, anything along those lines. And so please, get that book. I'm personally autographing each one. And so when they're gone, they are absolutely gone, folks. And so please do that. Also get a copy of my book, White Fear. We've got lots of copies of that. White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, from Ben Bella Books. Get the audio version on Audible. Of course, you can get it from bookstores nationwide. Folks, I'll be in Atlanta tomorrow. Headed to Atlanta for the Steve Harvey Golf Tournament. Y'all know I got to represent Alpha there. So, Steve, when you see my new Alpha golf bag, he ain't going to know what to do. But he'll get over it. All right, y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
A real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?